Hello and welcome to my woolly PhD. My name's Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm currently learning about or thinking about and what I'm making in my anthropology PhD all about wool. And I did miss last week. It doesn't happen very often, but I had a big weekend, which is when I normally record these, and I was a bit tuckered out. So I just kind of gave myself a pass on last week. Anyway. This past couple of weeks, I have been learning about humour in anthropology, which is not something I think that I'd come across any works on before. So this has been a really fascinating couple of weeks. As a psychotherapist, I have a lot of thoughts about humour, which actually kind of have some great crossovers. So anyway, let's get into it. So anthropologists seem to write about humour in two main ways. As I can tell so far, very new into looking into this field. But so one is a social phenomenon, right, that reveals or encodes values and taboos, relationships, criticisms, attempts to sort of bring people into line, attempts to break lines, also ways of coping with inequality and power dynamics. So it's a topic of study in itself. And anthropologists also reflect on humour as a methodology, sort of as a way in which to kind of conduct research or a tool that generates connection and generates knowledge. And that laughing together with the people we research is a way we build rapport. But laughter and humour also opens doors into emotions and opinions that people might otherwise not want to share in a kind of more serious, direct way. So this sort of borrows a little more from my psychotherapy life, but generally humorous statements always contain two messages. One that's permissible, right? One that you're allowed to be associated with, and the other that is more taboo or private, that let's say the speaker kind of unconsciously wants to share or have known but doesn't also really, and they don't want to be associated with it because there's some kind of personal or cultural sort of injunction against those statements or that knowledge or that opinion, I guess. So joking offers vulnerable information in a way that it's designed to protect the speaker, right? So like self-deprecating jokes tell us that the speaker is self-critical in this way, but without it being a serious confession, right? It's a way of coping with the humiliations of life in ways that give somebody some agency. The jokes, of course, can also carry criticisms of others, but with the joke and being able to avoid the label of sort of being judgmental or inappropriate or something. And this can sometimes reveal like a disciplinary logic, sort of a way of keeping people in line, or a way of teaching people how to behave. So it can be an intergenerational kind of teaching tool for this is how we do things around here. No, we don't do it like that. So a way to sort of teach behaviour and also to reprimand people when they misstep in a sort of indirect kind of friendly way. I say friendly because, yeah, there's always, power is always, yeah. Jokes are also a really interesting thing to reveal a lot about power dynamics, like who is telling the joke, at whose expense. Again, can reveal these disciplinary logics and sort of the gatekeeping dynamics of who's in and how to be in and what will get you kicked out, what the consequences are for non-conforming behaviour, I guess. I often say this about psychotherapists, right, that for us there is no such thing as just a joke. All jokes have deep meaning. This probably makes us less fun at parties, but I'm too middle-aged to know what happens at parties, so whatever. Now, that's a great example of an interesting self-deprecating joke, right? What does it mean? Am I ageist? Am I secretly delighting from minimal group social interactions, but I don't like to boast, especially being Australian, we're not allowed to, but gee, it's so great to stay at home a lot. I don't know, is that what's going on? Am I inclined to withdraw from social things because of the hormonal changes of perimenopause? Am I sad about being middle-aged? I don't know. The joke reveals something, right? And it's not always obvious exactly what. But the great thing about jokes is that they're doorways into things people are kind of accidentally revealing. And so if we've got enough rapport, or we can be kind of delicate enough about it or clever enough about it, we can actually go through a doorway with somebody to actually find out more about what's really going on behind the joke. Because usually there's something kind of a bit, taboo's not the best word for this, I don't think. Maybe it is. It's something that can't be spoken directly or seriously generally. And I've mentioned this before in a previous video, that sort of farmers here, and I think this is probably in many places, right, get laughed at for trying different farming methods, right? One example of, so they can get laughed at by other farmers who aren't trying these different farming methods, I guess. So they get publicly and privately teased and joked about. I mean, Icelandic culture, I think it's a very gentle, kind culture in some ways. I think, actually, I can't comment on that. I live with very gentle, kind people. I can't say that's the whole population. I think it's probably quite true, though, that it's not a population that kind of tease each other in a really nasty way as like a common thing. I think if it happens, it's not so common, right? Again, just get that feeling. Anyway, but what's the purpose of laughing at a nonconformist farmer, right? What can this tell us about the farming communities, about social order, about values? And if I think it through and try to put myself in the shoes, right, if I'm in this group of people who all do things the same way, and then there's this other person making different choices, I might unconsciously interpret that as a criticism of how I'm doing things. Maybe how my parents and my parents' parents did things too, if this is an intergenerational system. I might think it's a criticism of me not taking enough risks or experimenting, or that I'm dumb, actually. That could feel like a criticism around my intelligence, right? So maybe I make jokes about the other person as the dumb one, right? The one who's clueless, who doesn't know how things work. Maybe I have difficulty in imagining that my way isn't the best way. Now, I don't know if that's what's going on for people psychologically here, but that's what I imagine if I try to sort of put myself in that role. That there's a way in which anytime people do something that's not mainstream, there's mainstream reactions against that for a range of different reasons, not all of which is because the new thing is a bad thing. It could just be a different thing that's therefore provocative. And I have also come across here, this was so interesting. So this kind of getting laughed at thing goes along with a bit of a narrative of, well, we've always done it like this, so that's why we do it like this, because we've always done it like this. But I have come across some writing about how this is used, the notion of we've always done it like this, to protect land use rights. So this notion of traditional land use practices, communal grazing, we maintain this way of doing this, not because of personal psychology or only maintaining social cohesion. It does do a lot for maintaining social cohesion, but it's about resource access. That if we stop doing it like this, we then won't have access to these highland grazing areas anymore. So laughing at people for doing something different could also be engaged in as a way an effort to protect resources, not just one's moral character or sense of self. So there's a bigger cultural process always, right? So anyway, these are early ponderings about laughing at different practices in farming communities. If you've been in one or experienced it, maybe in a different context actually, because I think the dynamics could be really similar across many subcultural contexts, even though the content could be a bit different. Yeah, share your thoughts. And humour is also used in the other way, It's also used to challenge and change repressive social orders, right? So we see humour in activism, in some forms of comedy performance as well, not all forms, where humour is playing an interesting role in social ordering, in sort of boundary management by trying to destabilise existing boundaries. The other example around the laughing at or whatever else, the disciplinary logics, these are attempts to stabilise existing boundaries in social orders. So humour gets used both ways. Yeah, I was reading something really interesting too about in a cultural process, elders in this culture, and I won't name it because I don't like the stereotyping that sometimes happens there. But they're the elders using, and it always kind of had it, it was a cultural process, kind of a humour joking way to discipline and pull, younger people into line. But the current generation of younger people actually start naming it as bullying. So this is a very interesting cultural process too. Anyway, I feel like sometimes I'll just throw things out here without anywhere for them to land. And I think that's a lot of research. It's a good thing. It could also just be reflective of where I am in the PhD, which is not trying to settle on anything or pin anything down, but to explore lots of different ideas and directions in the sort of data gathering. So if you're feeling like, we should go with this, I'm not going anywhere with it. So that's it, gone nowhere. But humour, how interesting. What have I been making? Well, this is exciting, and there's actually a lot, because there's a couple of things I acquired that I will share. Why don't I get those out of the way first? I was at a little craft market, mostly wool things, the other weekend, and I bought this spindle. This is a Snyder spindle. It's a bit steampunk. It's supposed to be like a gears or something. And it's actually just a straight piece of towel. But apparently the maker, the person I bought it from, she was saying he actually knows how to spindle. And she went on this big rant about men with lathes and they can't test what they've made and they're often useless. And anyway, she's a very experienced hand spinner, and I've seen her spinning with this. And when I saw one for sale there, I thought, I'm going to grab that. It may not have been the wisest decision because I'm a little impatient by nature. And so I often don't stick with hand spindling. I just go to my machine. Anyway, but when I bought this, I had also asked how much was this one, and she said, oh, you can have that one for free. So sweet. How cool is this little baby? So I could use it as a support spindle, but it's designed actually to be a drop spindle with this, and I can do either of those, that's fine. But this one, she said, is made in Germany, but apparently based on some findings from an archaeological dig. Now, I don't know which one it was. I'd have to ask her, because a lot of the time the only things that are left from spindling in archaeological digs are the ceramic or stone whorls. The shafts, they're all decayed because wood doesn't last as long. Not in all. Sometimes in bogs and things there's been some really interesting wooden wool tools found. Anyway, I was very excited about those. I will tell you when I use them. It may not be for a while. But this needs a drum roll. This could be a world first. Let me know if you know anybody who's already tried this. Now, I'm a little bit embarrassed because it's very unbalanced. Hasn't been it hasn't had a bath yet. It hasn't been thwacked yet. Those things will help. This is maybe the world first premiere of Icelandic wool spun together with possum. So exciting. So I was at a spinning group the other weekend and I knew someone had a hand drum carder there, and I thought, I'm going to take the possum fibre that I bought from Australia with me and some of this Icelandic locks and card them together and try and spin it and see if I can make something. This is just a tiny bit of what I carded. And I got to use a treadle wheel for the first time. I just use an electric one at home. So my coordination and the getting an even kind of, this partly why it's so unbalanced, and there's some disaster moments in here. The possum is definitely not as well distributed as I would have liked, but I learnt a lot. I think I could improve on that next time. But I'm going to wash it, thwack it, knit it up and get a little sample out of that, and then I will try again. Might use one of the hand spindles because then I don't have to worry about my kind of new issues with my sort of a new coordination thing. Anyway, so that's exciting. One of the tricks with possum, because it's such a short fibre, is to get it to stay in the yarn. It did pretty well in spinning, like I didn't lose a lot in spinning, I didn't lose a lot in carding. So we'll see once it's knitted up if it stays there. It's partly why it's also really unbalanced, is I was trying to spin a lot tighter than I'm used to. And so then when I plied, I also got to make the wheel go the other way. Anyway, I'll stop making excuses. It's a good first try. I have finished this one. I want to call it a highly functional sock because it's a bit, I don't know, it's not beautiful, but it is, the yarn is amazing. This is called the Verga Sockar. And this is the really thick, chunky sock wool from the Uppspunni mini mill. And with this one, they select fleeces that are super strong fleeces that are very, very durable fibres in them. And then they spin it as a 3-ply and extra tight. So it's like this, no nylon, no plastics in it, just 100% Icelandic wool, super warm, squishy sock. So I've got one. I don't suffer from second sockitis, but I did remember yesterday that I promised somebody else a pair of socks by the end of the month, and they are a different size to me. I cannot give them this one and a second one. So I started a new pair today because I've got a bit of I'm going to be in a car for a while tomorrow, and I thought, I'll get this other pair started. And yeah, this is really sweet. Oh, I can take this one out. Have you ever just accidentally pulled out the wrong one? I've done this a few times. This is lovely. Oh, what's the focus doing? No idea. Anyway, this is really lovely. This is basically the same yarn but thinner. It's called the Hulda Sockar. And so, yeah, it's just a lighter weight yarn. So anyway, it's a very sweet cream colour. I like that one. So, did I share on here the crazy elaborate swatching thing I thought I was doing, where I was swatching in the round for 2 different pattern charts with 2 different colour combinations, all the same colours but like up to 6 colours, and I kept not being able to actually really, I think I did 1 row of the colour work, did I even? I think so. And then I realised I wasn't able to get to it because it was too complicated to do in the short amounts of time that I had to knit. So I thought, this is a great idea for somebody else's lifestyle. It's not going to work for mine at the moment. So I pulled it out and I started swatching for something else. So, oh my God, I tell you, this is me making it less complicated. It's ridiculous. So then I just swatched for 2 things, not in the round, but I did colour work backwards and back and forth. So I was doing colour work on the purl side as well. It wasn't as bad as I thought. But what's funny is that I don't like cutting threads. So everything's just kind of like going like this because I want to pull this out and save it. But anyway, what did I do? There's a classic old Icelandic pattern here called the Byrki, or Berkey if you're Australian. Byrki, I don't know how they're going to pronounce it in Icelandic. Probably not that close to what I'm saying. But the pattern is by Johanna Hjoldadottir, but it's a kid-size pattern. And then adults have made it in adult patterns. Oh, Of course, adults made it. People have made it in adult sizes and as a cardigan, which is what I wanted to do. But they're either just like working out the stitch counts and stuff because they just know how to do that, or they're basing it on something else. So I had also bought a pattern from a local designer here that I really liked. So this is the Berkey. It's got these, you can see. So I did try to mix it up and tried a few little different things here. So I'm going with this version, I think. I think it's going to be really cute. Anyway, I'm going to do that one. And then I also thought, but maybe I don't want to do the Berkey, even though it's been in my saved list in Ravelry for a really long time. And I thought maybe I'll do this one called Fold by Helga Thordarson, who's a designer in the south of Iceland. Beautiful designs, and actually she's the designer of the South Iceland Wool Week hat, which is a free pattern. You can find it by Googling Icelandic Woolworks. It's a really lovely hat pattern, actually. Very talented fibre, I don't know what she calls herself, artist, designer, crafter, but really amazing with wool. Anyway, so I started swatching for the pattern in her Fold sweater, it's called. But I decided partway through this that I actually think this, at first I was going to do, I'll do one colour down the middle and a different one for the things. And I thought, I don't want to carry 3 colours for the whole of the yoke. I don't mind carrying 3 for a couple of rows here and there. But no, I thought that was going to be painful. So I decided, no, I'm going to go back to the Berkey. I think it's going to be lovely. So I cast on. But again, because I don't like, this is so silly. I don't know why, because it's not like it's hard to join, especially non-superwash yarns. They're dead easy to rejoin. But I started casting on for the sweater. So I'm using Helga's Fold stitch counts and things, but with the Berkey yoke design. And then I'm just adding steeking stitches in the middle to turn it into a cardigan, and I'll work out how to do the button bands and stuff. Anyway, so I cast on for that, and I've just done 2 rows of the colour work. But the funny thing is, because I didn't want to cut this. I think I'm going to have to cut it now. I just feel I think I'm being ridiculous. But I started knitting out of the centre instead. So now I've made it that I can't take this anywhere without taking this anywhere, and I can't take this anywhere without taking the whole tray of yarns that are all joined together. My version of making things less complicated. I'm going to cut that thread tomorrow. What else have I been making? Oh, that's right. I didn't make this. I didn't wear it, but the cardigan I've been wearing probably the past couple of episodes, a senior from Anna Sjorsvad, I think, forgetting. I didn't have buttons for it, and because it's a really special wool and I really love the pattern, I thought I want really special buttons. And I thought some reindeer buttons from Iceland would be super special. And I went to the place that I know that has them, but they weren't the right colours. And so then it became this little mission to find the right buttons, and it had to be special and part of some story. And I went to, someone took me to this other wool store that I hadn't been to yet to check out their buttons. Again, no reindeer buttons and not special buttons. And then someone just super, super lovely surprised me by organising a little trip to this person's house in this other little town. And she said, oh yeah, her husband used to make reindeer buttons and they still sell them. And so I called her and she's fine, we can come over. I said it would be there in 20 minutes. And so we went to this lady's house and we go inside, and on the dining table, there's like this large jar just full of reindeer horn buttons. Just pours them out on the dining table. So cool. So we get to rifle through all these buttons. So I ended up picking out 3, let's say, sets. And so one set is like, where is the camera? You know, like these. This is not for the cardigan, but I just couldn't not get more sets than just the one. So these kind of longer ones. Then there's also, these don't look like they belong together, but they belong together. Yeah, I think these are going as part of a set as well. And there's more like this little one as well. Very cute. And then, I think they're the ones for the cardigan. And then these, which you just don't think are going to be the same thing at all. Amazing. Kind of got these green edges. Anyway, I also learned that, well, this is what I got told, that you can't make them from like a reindeer that's been shot and the horns being used. They have to be horns that have kind of been dropped and discarded by the reindeer because they're too soft if they're kind of live horns in a sense. So that's very interesting. Anyway, I've just got to still sew them onto the cardigan. But I got my special buttons with a cool story, and that's exciting. So it's been a good couple of weeks. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next week. Bye.